God gave rock and roll to you, gave rock and roll to you, put it in the soul of everyone.
Being justifies me in this life that I'm living. I choose to suffer with the game. Being justifies me. You have your own life to live for.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Area 312 Rock and Metal Podcast. And today, my co-host Mike and Rex and I, we are very privileged to have Jamie Rowe from Guardian, Adrian Gale, and Tempest, and a host of other bands in his solo album. Welcome, Jamie. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It's an honor also to have Todd XL Stevens. You remember Todd from XL and DVD, Death Before Dishonor. Todd's released a whole slew of albums since that 1993 epic release, Sodom in America. Todd, it's great to have you. Thank you, buddy, for being here.
Good to be here.
Yes, sir. And last but certainly not least, our buddy, way back from our Stryper Drive days, Mr. Dale Erickson. Hey, Dale. Good to see you, buddy.
Same here.
And as you know, friends, Dale released, this was like the holy grail for me, and Rex and Mike as a Stryper fan. Back when, before Stryper even got together, Dale and his co-author, Jesse Sturdivant, you might remember, they released the official Stryper biography in 2001, Loud and Clear. That book has since gone on to be reprinted back in 2006, as well as an audio book. So we're also welcoming our buddy Dale Erickson. And Dale, thanks again for being here, buddy. So did I say Dale Thompson at first, guys?
I don't think so.
So I got to tell you really quick, I was watching a Bride video, and we all know Dale Thompson of Bride, and especially you, Todd, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'm watching this video of Bride, and I'm an old school Bride fan, and all of a sudden I get this text, and I look down, and for a split second it said Dale Thompson, and I'm like, what in the world? Dale, it was you. You were texting me. It was Dale Erickson, but for a second I'm watching Dale Thompson. I'm looking down and I see Dale, and for a second, my mind was playing tricks on me. So, all right, friends. So, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I should correct one thing you said. When you were talking about Dale, you said he put out the Stryper biography even before they got together. You probably should have said before they got back together.
Reunited, yes, reunited,
And it feels so good.
There you go. All right, thanks, Jamie, for the backup, buddy. So, Dale, I was telling Todd, you're like the Forrest Gump of Christian rock, and I mean that.
True. It's probably true.
Friends, Dale was our friend since the Stryper Drive days. We did an interview with him. You can find it on YouTube. And Dale, we stayed in touch with him, and he goes, one day we're talking, and he goes, hey, would you like to do an interview with Jamie Rowe and Todd Stevens and Michael Feighan from Whitecross? And I'm like, yes. So Dale got this together, and friends, Michael Feighan of Whitecross, he might pipe in a little bit later. He's having some things happening that he's having to attend to right at the moment. So without further ado, Jamie and Todd, thank you for being here again. If you don't mind, we'll kind of compartmentalize, shine the spotlight on each one of you and talk about some things that you've been up to. And Dale, you feel free to pipe in where you need to and bring up some stories and stuff. But Jamie, let's start with you, buddy. And forgive me, because I don't know. Some people, they're like, oh, don't bring that up or whatever. But Jamie,
Let's talk about everything.
I knew you initially as JR Rowe from Tempest, and
Yeah.
I was a fan. Coming Storm, Eye of the Storm, certainly a fan of you in Guardian when Fire and Love hit, Miracle Mile, Swing, Swing, Swung, and on down the line. Adrian Gale, Defiance, Crunch, London Calling, and I have a story about London Calling, The Lost Days of Summer. And as I'm aware, This Is Home is your latest release, your solo
Yeah.
album in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jamie, we always like to start off at square one with everyone's musical upbringing and influence. Was the radio playing at your house a lot, or what about family? Was there music?
All the time. Obviously I had an older brother that was in Tempest, and he brought in a lot of music. And I think we all at the same time, I think it was Halloween '77 or something, we discovered Kiss. We got the Rock and Roll Over album. A friend had come over and spent the night, and he brought that over and stuff, and we were hooked. Another thing, and I'll be real compact everything because it's long stories, but I'll compact. Also, my mom ordered a Kenny Rogers record through the Columbia House Record Club and got the numbers wrong. And Van Halen 2 came, and we kept it. And so, it's like I would not have probably discovered that band during that time. So Kiss and Van Halen through the late 70s was it for me. And then at the very tail end of the 70s, Cheap Trick. And I used to hang out this little arcade up the street from where I lived and stuff, and they had a jukebox and they played I Want You to Want Me, and I love that band. And still, I was 10 years old in 1980. I saw the Dream Police tour. That was my very first concert experience. But yeah, we had music around all the time, and I really wasn't a singer, but I used to be able to imitate people's voices. My voice has changed a lot now, but I used to be able to do like Paul said, like I can't. It doesn't sound really that good now, but it did when I was younger.
That's pretty good.
And like Queensrÿche, we see the lies of Joe. So I used to do that stuff for my friends, and it got to the point where, well, maybe you should actually try singing. So I did. And originally in Tempest, I was the bass player, and we went and made that first record, and I played bass on it. And the guy producing it heard me sing and said, "Why isn't this guy singing?" And so he said, "Let's try him on a couple tracks." And so we went home, the record was made, and this was back in the day, it was so low budget that they mixed it and everything without us and sent us back. I didn't hear the final record till I actually had a pressed copy of it. And I realized that's not me playing bass. So they hired a studio guy to come in and replay everything. And I ended up singing, but from then on, I was just the singer of the band. So from then on, I've just been a singer. So
Todd, they didn't hire you to play bass on that album, did they?
I don't think we knew each other back then. Maybe they would have, perhaps.
So, well, Jamie, I love those Tempest albums. You guys were very outspoken about your relationship with Christ. And we always like to ask, please tell us about when your journey with Christ began.
You know what? I grew up in a Christian school. And so obviously when you're in that environment, it's around 24/7. But it became, and I used all the typical things. I wanted to be a kid. I wanted to, I'm not going to say I wanted to party, but I just wanted to be me, you know what I mean? And so I had this head knowledge of Christ and stuff, and would use the excuse, well, that's dude's such a hypocrite. I don't want to be anything like that and everything. I just felt like, I've been wronged by these people. And I remember a pastor came in, and, I don't believe in scare tactics, but in this case for me, it worked. He preached on hell and end times and stuff, and I went to the altar, and I remember I literally felt, not audibly, I felt like God was saying to me, like, okay, you have all these issues with people. What have I done to you? And I couldn't think anything. God's never done anything to me and stuff. And I gave my life to God that night and had Jesus in my heart, and that was it. Literally within 7 months, the first Tempest record came out. So I was a very, very, very new Christian with a lot of head knowledge of Christ, but didn't have it in me, And then obviously with Guardian, we existed to play music, but we also existed mostly to tell people about Jesus. And that was just how we were. That was kind of a mission. That was something we, like, I remember we were writing lyrics for Fire and Love, and I forget what, I think it was Forever and a Day. I had a line or something like that I want to sing. It basically would have switched the song into more like a relationship song, girl guy, than a God thing. And I remember telling him, he goes, "Not this record, bud." And that was it. And so that was, that's just how we did. If Guardian were to reform as a new band in this day and age, I don't think I would have used the same approach. I think because the culture has changed so much, I think I would rather just be a really good band that points to Jesus. Like, okay, they're so good and earn the right to say something. Well, I've always loved, I forget what Amy Grant record it was. It was one of her mainstream records. I think it was the one with Baby Baby. It had all these like pop songs that people just bought. But when you bought the record, the last song had a chorus on it that said, if anything good happens in life, it's from Jesus. And I always loved that. And that's just why I thought, man, we're supposed to be salt and light. You have a steak, you put a little salt on it, it brings out the flavor. It enhances everything. It slows down the spoilage. If I pour the whole bottle of salt, it ruins it. And just the way we're supposed to be salt and light. And I love this analogy. I'm going to use it for you real quick. We're supposed to be the light of the world. We're supposed to shine Christ. But if I do this, and that's not really the fact, you don't see anything.
Right.
It ruins everything. So be subtle. Earn the right to say these things. And when you get the chance, say them strongly. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I know I just jumped ahead, but musically for me, that's where I'm at.
Hey, Jamie, tell us a little bit about your entrance in The Guardian.
Actually, there was a guy named Jeff McCormick who had a fanzine called The Pendragon. And I had done an interview with him through Tempest, and he had told me that, hey, I just interviewed Tony Palacios from Guardian. And I said, yeah, I just read about them. Oz Fox's produced a record. He goes, yeah, they're really cool. Hey, you probably like him. You want his number? And so I called Tony out of the blue without knowing him at all. And I remember, and I was, like I said, I was 17 or 18. I was like, dude, because he's working Stryper. I was like, hey man, I'm a fan. Don't hang up. I just wanted to say hey and wanted to meet you. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, dude, he's like, I'm not going to hang up on you. Anyway, we became friends. We talked about music, and I was really enamored with the whole Stryper thing. But I also remember that a few months later, I'd called him around Christmas, and he called me back, and I was gone. I was at a Christmas party with my girlfriend at the time. And the next day, my dad had passed away from a heart attack. And Tony thought it was weird that I didn't call him back because I was such a fan. If he called me, I'd call him like right back. You know what I mean? And so he called me and said, dude, what's going on? He goes, haven't heard from me. I said, well, my dad died. And what's cool about this whole thing is, and it's not cool, you'll understand what I'm saying. Tony's mom passed when he was like 12. And I didn't know anybody who had parents that had lost their parents. So all of a sudden, this guy, a guitar player, became like a comforter to me. And he talked me through a lot of this, wrote me letters and stuff like that. It was really cool. So before we ever played music together, he was valuable to me in my life. So, and then when I found out that they were looking for a singer, I called Tony. Hey man, I hear you're looking for a singer. Can I send something? He goes, no, that's okay. We know what you sound like. They weren't into it. And I said, dude, he said, we want something kind of bluesy, kind of almost like a David Coverdale, even maybe some Joey Tempest stuff. I said, dude, I can do that. Let me send the tape. And I sent it, overnight it, called every day to make sure they got it, everything like that. And finally, Brenda, his wife, says, Jamie's been calling every day. The post office said, if you don't come pick this up, they're going to send it back. You need to go get this. And so he didn't go to get it because he didn't want to hurt my feelings. He knew it'd be terrible. But I sang the thing. I remember I sang this like, I see you walking, you passed me right by. That was on the tape. He just said, go sing in front of the mic. I did it. I remember singing that. And I sent the demo. I had just written the song, Never Say Goodbye. And I sent the demo of that with that. And he said he pulled off the road and he heard it. And he's like, we found our singer. He couldn't believe it was me, So that's how I joined Guardian.
So when you guys did See You in Heaven, that had meaning for both of you.
It had a lot of meaning, yeah. But especially for Tony specifically, because when he wrote that, I remember it was a real emotional experience. I think if I remember right, when he wrote the line, it's hard to say goodbye, my friend, he started like bawling, like uncontrollably, like releasing stuff, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was a heavy song. And it's probably our worldwide, it's definitely on our top 5, like most pop. That song connected. I'm not gonna say most popular. It connected the most with a lot of people. So
I'll see you in heaven. I'll see you in heaven. The only thing that hurts more than losing you are all of the years of living without you. I wanna run back to you and show you the life I've lived without you.
Swing Swing Swung is a wonderful album. Was released in '94, and I've always liked it. It was a little different, which I mean, I love the hard, but it's nice to get to the roots, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm a sucker for a good rock song done acoustically.
Mm-hmm.
So Jamie, let's then talk about your latest release in 2019. This Is Home, and some of the notes that I had written about it. You know, I love to rock and I love to roll, but again, sometimes it's nice. My notes say it's refreshingly rural in much of its delivery. There's an Americana vibe visually with your videos, and as you like to say, 2 shots of country, 3 shots.
3 shots, right? Yeah, man. I view it as a rock record, but it's definitely a country influenced rock record. And it was. But see, let me back up. Whenever those songs on that record, with the exception of one. Life is Better. The song Life's better with you. With the exception of that one, every other song on that record was songs that I'd written for myself here at home, and mostly just for Amber, songs I've written about Amber, because my life had changed radically in 2015, 2016 through there, meeting Amber and just a different world. I had never planned to record music again. I thought that was something, you know, I work at True Tone, which is a guitar pedal effects company, and I love it. And it's just like, it's a really good fit for my life right now. It's like perfect. I don't have the desire to be a full-time artist in any way, shape, or form. But my friend Rob Harris, who you know, Rex, asked me, he goes, I'm playing the Bluebird Cafe. He goes, for songwriters, that's like, you know, the creme de la creme. That's the Madison Square Garden for songwriters. He asked me, he goes, I know you've always wanted to play it. Would you want to play this writer's round with me? And I did, and I played This Is Home. I played all these songs that nobody knew. And people really liked it, especially like the people at the Bluebird, you know, who hear things every day. They really liked it. And I remember on the way home, I'm telling Amber, you know what? I wonder if I should try to record. So maybe I should try a Kickstarter, and that'll be my answer. Is if I'll put that there. If people want it, I'll record this record. If I don't, you know, life goes on. And to be honest, I put it up there with a budget that I thought was like, okay, this works. I really didn't expect it to go through. And I'm saying that honestly. I just thought people won't want this. You know, they want to hear Guardian. They want to hear anything else. And I get that. I really do. Because, you know, it's like, I don't really want to hear a David Lee Roth solo record, but I would have loved to have heard a Van Halen record. I get it. So, you know, but anyway, that campaign got funded in 11 days, and I made that record, and it was perfect because I was really into modern country music from about 2015 to about, well, to be fair, probably about 2020 when the pandemic hit. And I remember I had a very abrupt come to Jesus thing with country music. I was driving in my car, the pandemic was starting, and I realized just see how people were just like, you know, people were dying in some places, people were losing their livelihoods. And I hear this guy on country radio go, we're gonna have a good time. Yeah, oh, we're gonna. And I realized I turned it off. And to be honest, I haven't really turned it back on since. I just realized this is so out of sync with the real world. And it just struck me wrong and stuff like that. And so I started going back to some classic rock, listen to old Cheap Trick, listen to stuff. And then, you know, and now these days, like this morning, I'm listening to Memphis Mayfire, and, you know, I like Rammstein and stuff, you know what I mean? So I kind of came around full circle back to rock. But I love, with all this said, the record I'm making now and in progress and hopefully get to make is a rock record, but I absolutely love This Is Home. That is probably the most honest thing I've ever recorded, because I didn't have any agenda other than just, I want to record these songs. I wrote them thinking no one would ever hear them except for me and Amber. And so it's a really authentic record. And to me, that's a good example of like where I'm at lyrically, because you wouldn't hear some of the songs say, okay, this is a quote unquote Christian record, but there's enough salt and light on there that I believe the message is very clear.
I wasn't really surprised that got funded that quickly. Just you have a lot of people who love you, Jamie, and love Guardian, and so they know you're not gonna put out something that isn't good, and I think that exceeded everyone's expectations actually. And
I appreciate that. And like I said, with the way the economy is and with music royalties and stuff is, if that hadn't got funded, I couldn't have made it. Because to be honest, I've made maybe $1,200 since the record was out, and you know the record cost what $8,000-9,000 to make. It's a financial loss. So without crowdfunding, I can't make music. I did have a couple people after the last record say, man, I always love you, support your music, but I'm just not in the country thing. I'm not sure I would have supported, you know? And so this time I'm going to let people know, this is what you're going to get, you know?
Jamie, your in your videos, like Kissing on You with you and Amber and your family, there's this, there's your sense of humor is on display as well. And, you know, in Amber's, and I got to share a story really quick. I had a chance, the only time I've ever seen you live, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it was with London Calling. I believe it was with Stryper on the 2003-7 tour.
In Pops in St. Louis area?
That's where it was at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, well, I saw you live, and there's this guy singing, and I'm looking up, and he has this like a jacket zipped down a little bit, like an athletic.
Yeah.
And there's this Guardian Fire and Love shirt.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking up, and I'm like just staring, and I'm like, that's Jamie Rowe, you know? So here's the humor part.
Uh-huh.
Jamie, you go, all right, everybody, this next song, who remembers Def Leppard back in the 80s with their song, Pour Some Sugar on Me? And the whole place erupted. And you go, well, this song's nothing like it. And you
no, I'm saying, well, we have nothing to do with that song. Here's one of ours. Yeah.
And that's what it was. And you can, guys, you can just hear, you can feel the air being let out of people. And then David and his band just kick it in, you know, their own song like nothing. You know, it was awesome though.
What I remember about that day is Gene Simmons from Kiss had gotten a hold of the London Calling record and was interested in signing us to Simmons Records. And he called me 3 hours before that show and called me at home before I came. And it was a really heavy conversation. It was like, wow. So we actually recorded that show for him. We had to record it. We had a little thing up on the balcony and sent that to him because he'd requested it. But I remember I was just getting over bronchitis. So I wasn't singing really strongly, but it's funny. I totally remember that show and seeing Robert, and I haven't seen Robert for a while, like Robert Sweet. And I remember him like, he was just so stoked to be back on the road. You know, hey, come look at our books. Like he was like really he had a lot of gratitude, man. So, and I thought that was awesome.
He shook every one of our hands in the line. Robert did.
Yeah.
He came to every one of us and shook our hands, and I will never forget that moment. And so, Jamie, what is next on your plate, buddy?
Man, I'm making it. Like I said, I started to make another, what I thought was going to be a solo record, and all intents and purposes, it is a solo record. But it sounds like band music. So I realized I don't want to put this out under Jamie Rowe. I don't think it just really doesn't fit. And plus, to be honest, I do have some songs in the style of This Is Home that I wouldn't mind to record someday down the line, and that would be perfectly under Jamie Rowe. So anyway, I said this sounds like a band thing, but I realized I don't really want another band at this point in my life. Like I said, I work at True Tone, and I need something I can do on my schedule. And to have a bunch of guys waiting around on me to decide, okay, do I want to work on this today? That's not fair to anyone. So, and I started looking at stuff like 9 Inch Nails or Five for Fighting. There are these things, they're band entities, but they're really one person, One Republic or something. I thought, I can do this. So I came up with a band name, and I'm not ready to share anything about it yet, but I've been working on it, and I think it's pretty cool. And I also decided, I can't tell you this, I love theatrical bands like Kiss, even to an extent, Slipknot. Maybe music is not necessarily my thing, but I like the theatrics of the whole thing. There's a Swedish band called Avatar. I like all this stuff. I'm going to throw some of that stuff into this mix because you know what? I've always loved it, and I've never done that. And so, and Dave, has a history of kind of doing that with the first era Guardian with the space armor stuff. And I was telling him about it. I was like, dude, if I can be involved in any way, let me know, man. I'm all about it. I was like, yeah. So he got it. And I showed him some stuff, and he was like really into it. But, and once again, it's going to be one of those things. I'm going to do a Kickstart Thunder. And if it works, I'll get the record made. If it doesn't, I'm still going to record the stuff as I can because I have to, you know what I mean? It'd be cool. I'd love to get like 11 songs out in one pop, but if I don't get it funded and it takes 3 years to get 11 songs, so be it. You know what I mean? But it's pretty hard rock. And if you like my raspy rock voice, you're going to be really happy. I probably shouldn't do this, but I'll play you. I'll just give you guys a sample. If you want to cut this out, you can. But just to show you I'll sing you the chorus of the song, if it makes sense. If I can actually find it here, hold on. Am I going the right way? There we are. Recents. The song's called Sinners Welcome. And it's based on Luke chapter 15, verse 2, where it says the Pharisees all get tripped out like who is this guy that eats with, sinners and dines with them, accepts them? And they're just losing their crap over it and stuff. And so in the line, I have this thing where I realize the most people don't understand what a Pharisee is. So I just redubbed it as smack talking church folk and everything. So it's like smack talking church folk causing a stink, losing their mind because you told me I'm wanted, sinners welcome. Anyway, it's cool. I think it's cool. So
all the smack talkers out there.
No, Jesus is for everyone, and I think there's a lot of things in our culture, stuff like that. People get together these little subcommittees and decide, okay, yeah, you're this. You need to do this before you come to Christ. You need to clean up. You need to do this and stuff. And Jesus accepted people where they were at, man. And I think a lot of people, have right or wrong, have preconceived notions and just have checked out on Christianity before they even got in the door to see what it's all about. And so with my music, I want to play for people. I don't want to entertain Christians. I want to play for people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, if a Christian is encouraged, then great, because I hope that's the case. I hope that's a byproduct and not the focus. I'm focused to create art, point to Jesus, and do it well. So,
and you do it well.
Man.
As does our other guest, Todd Stevens. Perfect segue, guys.
Yes.
Perfect segue. So, Jamie, really quick, before getting into Todd's segment here, jamierowe.com. I will put that in the description. And friends, you can go there and Jamie, are there other avenues for people to get a hold of you and your work?
Well, obviously I'm on all the socials, Spotify and iTunes, Apple Music and stuff. But I tend to I'm fairly active on Facebook and Instagram. I don't do Twitter at all anymore because I think it's too negative. And I'm also a photographer, so I have a photography page and stuff. So I just really like creating art, man. So, but usually, and on my Facebook page, it's like I always try to do my best to respond to people when they ask questions and stuff, because it's like, dude, I've got the time these days. You know what I mean? So, and if I'm laying there with Amber in bed, we're watching, TV, doesn't hurt me to get on my phone and answer somebody's question if they really, because I would love to ask some of the bands I love, like, okay, during this time, what we do, I probably wear Michael and Robert out all the time, asking about Stryper stuff. So, one thing I got to tell you, because I'm gonna do this for Dale, because Dale asked me to tell this story.
Yeah, there you
when
go.
I auditioned for Guardian, when I got off the plane, I remember coming to Tony's, then he goes, well, you're going to get to meet your heroes today. He had to go by Robert's place because he was going to meet with Oz to get something out of the Stryper storage unit. And so I'm like, wow, this is awesome. So anyway, so we go to Robert's house and the whole band is there setting up for the Shining Star music video. They were actually rehearsing for the video. I guess you rehearse for a music video. This is news to me. I've never done it. So, but I remember Robert had his teal and black striped drums in his living room. And they all came to the door because they wanted to see who this guy that was possibly going to be Guardian singer coming. And Tim wasn't there. Tim had his car broke down on the way there. But Michael, Robert, and Oz were there. And I was just like, guys, I was 20 years old and a huge Stryper fan. So it was like, oh my gosh, I'm here and everything and stuff. So we ended up going with Oz to the Stryper storage unit. And he opens up that thing. And the first thing I see is right in front of me, the van on the cover of Soldiers Under Command. I see it in person and it's like right there. And, and I just remember like, and this is pre-iPhone, this is pre-thing, like, I'm about to cry, you know what I mean? So I remember seeing that. But what's funny is I was really, you can probably edit this out. I was really sheltered. I remember Oz listened to the demo. Tony played Never Say Goodbye, and Oz says, dude, your voice kicks ass. And for a 20-year-old from Southwest Indiana, you didn't say that. So I'm sitting here wondering if he's like, is he really a Christian? I literally, I'm 20 years old and stuff like that. I remember telling Tony about it, and he's like, but this is also at the same time, because on the way there, Tony said, let's go get an ice cream. And we pull up to a liquor store, and I'm like, I can't go in there. It's a liquor store. He goes, that's where you get ice cream in Southern California. So I had a lot of Midwest culture I was bringing to the whole thing. But I was sitting there, Oz, my hero, just said my voice kicks ass. And instead of me getting stoked about it, I'm like, oh, is he really a Christian? So anyway.
This is home.
Jamie, the Kickstarter will probably start in April, you think then?
We'll see and stuff like that. Because I also want to make a video for this track to release all at once. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. It'll be soon because I'm like I'm itching to get it out. Last season of American Idol, there's this guy named Hunter Metz. I think he was like he placed in the top 10 anyway. His drummer Max is a good kid. I really love his stuff. He came in and played drums on the track this week, so I thought that was pretty cool. So it's coming.
All
and
right.
like I said, I hope people like it. And if they don't, man, I'm sorry. I just got to keep going. I got to do it.
Well, what's not to like, Jamie? I mean, your voice is so versatile. You've always kind of, the beauty of Guardian, whenever you came on the scene with them, you guys don't sound like Tesla, but the closest band that I can relate to is Tesla because it's got that bluesy country-ish vibe, but it's by all means rocking. So
that was never intentional, but I can totally hear it.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Good stuff. Love you guys. Keep rocking.
Jamie,
Yes.
you're a top 5 Christian metal rock bands. Go.
Top 5 Christian metal rock band. You start breaking up everything. Stryper, hands down, like this far above everybody else. I still love, I love Barren Cross. I love Bride. I love the Whitecross stuff. God, who else? Saint. I like Saint. Sacred Warrior. I don't know, man. These are just bands I love during that time. If they were on a California metal record, chances are I love them. If they were in Heaven's Metal magazine from 1985 to 1989, chances are I love them. But I would say, I mean, guys, Stryper is it for me, man. As far as Christian metal goes, absolutely.
All right. Now, the Guardian song that you love the most.
The Rain. Absolutely. Me and Todd just talked about that before we started.
Okay.
Absolutely, The Rain. When I'm down and I'm cold. I mean, come on. You know what I mean?
And the one you hate the most.
There's a few of them actually. There's a song called "The Water's Fine" on Bottle Rocket that I absolutely hated. Actually, that song we had, it was actually a big song for the band called "Take Up Your Cross." I always felt like it was on Sesame Street singing it. Like I couldn't stand it, and people loved it. Yeah, and another thing, that was really hard because it's like one big long run-on sentence. It was always hard for me to sing live, and trying to get the other guys to sing backgrounds to pick up the slack was like pulling teeth. So it's like anytime that was on the set list, I wasn't happy. But it made people happy and it connected with a lot of people, so I'm cool with it. So
You have a short, crazy tour story.
short, crazy tour story.
Yeah.
Fire and Love tour when we were on Epic Records doing that push for that side. I remember playing some mainstream gigs. We were somewhere in Omaha. I remember the marquee said, blah, 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 hog roast, such and such. In the middle it said Guardian, and at the bottom it said male exotic dancers coming soon. And I've still got that flyer.
I know your favorite venue during that tour was Cactus Jack's, right?
Cactus Jack's was pretty cool. We liked that, and we always liked those places in Dallas. I forget what it's called, like the Powerhouse. That was for a while. So, Todd, do you remember any of that stuff, like the Dallas area stuff, like down in Deep Ellum? Those things are all cool. But Cactus Jack's is where the male dancers thing was.
Oh, so that was in Des Moines then.
Yes, and I have the flyer for that still.
And Tony Palacios is the Pride of Clyde, right?
Yes,
the Pride of Clyde.
Grimes, Iowa.
Grimes, yeah. 'Cause
Yes.
Tony grew up in Grimes.
Yes.
Wow,
So-
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, Todd, let me ask you, buddy, and I'm going to start off with this. Dale was sharing some stories there with Jamie. Dale was talking to me on the phone one day, and he said he started to tell me a story, but I wouldn't let him finish it. Todd, Dale mentions a story about a link between you and infamous serial killer Richard Ramirez. What's the scoop?
Okay. So I'm from California, and of course, I was in California with the notorious Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, and who wreaked a whole bunch of havoc and killed several people. So I knew who he was, and I had heard he was from a satanic coven. That's what I knew to that point. So I'm on tour with the Crucified and Applehead, Greg Neer and Mortal, and we're playing in El Paso. And so we roll up to this house, and this is where we're going to stay. As a pastor that's going to let us stay at this house. We're all coming and we're walking in, all 3 bands or 4 bands. And this pastor literally, he comes out the door to meet us at the sidewalk. And he's like, I got to go. I just wanted to hurry and give you guys a key. Make yourself at home. This is my house. He goes, I can't stay here. There's a satanic coven that's trying to kill me. It was so serious for him. He was not going to stay in his own house. He goes, I just got to let you know, they could show up. But if you want to stay here, you're going to stay here. Yeah, and it was Richard Ramirez coven. It was the real deal, satanic, real satanic coven. And so we look at each other and like, huh, let's go, So we go and stay in the house. But it's just kind of cool to have that notch. Like, hey, the Satanists are after the Christians, but we're going to stay in the house that they might show up at that night.
Did they show up?
They showed up at the bar that we played at. We played at a bar that night. And sure enough, there was some people there that were watching us. And we found out that one of the guys or a couple of guys ended up getting some girl, raping her and killing her that night, so that they were serious about their evil. And, but that's how it went down.
Wow. Yeah, I remember, AC/DC had the song Night Prowler, and I remember the picture of Richard having the pentagram carved into his. Anyway, let's talk about other happier things, guys. Happy times. So, Todd,
that's my tour story.
Man, what a story! Thanks for bringing that up, Dale. Todd, tell us about your musical upbringing and your influence. A lot of radio in your house being played, or family members playing instruments?
Absolutely. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, all musicians. And so by the time I can remember, by the time I was 5 years old, it was all about music for me. And there was already drums in the house, guitar, trumpets, piano. My father played the saxophone. And it's crazy because my oldest brother, he was the rocker. So, I'm hearing, I'm 5'6", I'm hearing Judas Priest and Thin Lizzy and Nazareth. And, my sister is into like Barbra Streisand, the Carpenters, Barry Manilow, stuff like that. Yeah. And then my parents are straight Southern black gospel, Walter Hawkins and Andre Crouch, that's what they're playing. And then my other brother, the middle brother, was straight funk. And, he's listening to Parliament and Confunction and the Commodores. So I had it coming at me from every angle. And by the time I was 12 years old, 13 years old, really wasn't much better than I am, or much worse than I am now with instruments. I was a definite prodigy. And then, of course, when I got older, I was upset with my parents because they didn't try to get me out there, because I should have, it would have been a child prodigy thing for certain. But by the time I got into the industry, I was just another guy that could play music, So,
well, Todd, the neat thing about you though is, not only do you play guitar, you play drums and bass and all. Did you just pick it up naturally through your siblings, or how did you become so diversified and fluent with all these instruments?
Yeah, it was just definitely a God thing. I never took lessons. My parents tried to have me take lessons for a week, and I couldn't. I was taking piano lessons, and the instructor was trying to teach me Für Elise from Beethoven. He's trying to teach me to read it, and by the second or third practice, I knew it by heart. I could just play it, and so I never learned to read. So, it's kind of a blessing and a curse. My ear has been a blessing and a curse because I can hear stuff and just play it. And so I never got into the theory of music till I got older, but I wish that my parents would have made me study music, because it could have taken me so many other places than just having a good ear. But so that growing up in a musical house, I was in the band with my sister. Eddie Kagi was in the, who Sherry Kagi is. Eddie Kagi was in the band. Phil Kagi's a nephew. So we used to hang out with him, and growing up, Brian Duncan lived right around the corner from me. And, so yeah, that, by the time I was starting to write music when I was 16 in this group. And what happened was I had a friend named Bob Moon I went to high school with. And Bob Moon was an engineer for like Tooth and Nail. He did like a lot of engineering for some of those bands and whatnot. And me and Bob went to school together, and Bob became a Christian around the same time I did. And we both used to party. We partied really hard. We were in the whole drinking and drugging scene. And it's kind of crazy because I was also raised in a Christian home. My dad's a doctor, and he just worked all the time. He was just gone from first thing in the morning to nighttime. So he wasn't really around a lot, although he provided very well. So since he wasn't around a lot, I ended up taking to the streets. I lived in Riverside, California, and Riverside is kind of made up of suburbs. You have well-to-do neighborhoods, and you drive 10 miles into the city, then you're in the hood, and or you're in either the Hispanic hood, Casablanca, or the East Side, and so I spent my time hanging out in these various hoods and hanging out with the wrong crowd, and then I'd go to church on Sunday. And since my dad was a gentleman, I knew how to talk. I could talk to you this way and talk to you this way, But anyway, Bob Moon, there was another professional skater. His name was Andre Walton. And he used to, he'd have like some of these artists, he'd put out a compilation tape that he would skate to at some of these Christian events. And he had like SFC on there and some of the Christian rock bands at that time. So when I was over at Bob's house, Andre Walton's sister was dating Bob's brother. So Andre would bring all these people over to the house. He'd bring like SFC, the Dynamic Twins, Piece 586, the whole West Coast Christian hip hop scene that was starting. These guys were all hanging out over Bob's house. So I'm over there and I get to meet these guys, and they find out, oh, Todd could play the bass. He could play guitar. So it's like, oh, he could put down some original stuff on our songs, because back then it was all about hip hop was sampling. They're sampling everything, So I started being able to put these bass parts on these guys' songs. And so that's how I got kind of brought into the crew, if you will. And I was, started rapping because I could do that, So I was making beats and rapping. And then the Twins got asked to go on tour with DC Todd. And so they asked me to go on tour. There's DC Talk, the Newsboys, and this group, Heather and Kirsten, that were on Arcade Records. That was DC Talk's second album, New Thing? New Thing. Yeah, that was that tour. And so I'm on that tour with them. And when I got back, I started getting offered deals. Brainstorm offered me a deal. Ocean Records offered me just a compilation deal. Arcade Records offered me a deal. In fact, I did a Christmas song with Arcade Records that, that's the time when I met Oz Fox. That's how I got to know Oz, because we were in the studio together with this dude, Chucky Perez, that was on Arcade Records.
Chucky P.
Yeah, Chucky P. And so me and Oz recorded a song for them. And this was right around the time when Stryper had just broke up. And he was, telling me some stories about that and whatnot. But so right then I got offered a deal, and the best deal was from Brainstorm. And that's where all my friends were on that label, Joe Taylor and Gene Eugene. Mm-hmm. So I'm supposed to do this rap record, and I've got like 18 songs. Back then the rappers were doing 20 song albums or whatever, right? I got 18 songs, but I've always been a rocker. So I got, on my 8-track at home, I've got all these rock songs. And I had just experimented. One time my brother, he's like, you need to quit using that drum machine. You need to rap to live music or whatever. And so I made this demo of the song Die. It was that Die that's on Sodom in America, the racism song. And I had made a demo of it. And I mean, we're getting ready to go to the studio 2 weeks before going to the studio. All the pre-production is done. And I say, hey, Gene, check out this thing I did at my house. I just showed him one of the songs that's on Sodom in America. And he's like, you have more of these songs? I got a whole album of these songs. He's like, we're doing this. And so within, 2 weeks time to go in the studio, we just changed the whole thing, and now it's going to be this rock album where I rap to it. Yeah, I mean, we got in there, we knocked it out, and see, no one had done that in the Christian industry yet. That hadn't been done. I mean, there was rappers, there was rockers, and it kind of bridged the gap a little bit of separation that was between, not too many Christian hip hop artists were hanging out with Dale Erickson or, Die Happy, you know,
So-
and same on the other side.
So Todd, I was introduced. That's how I knew you. XL and DVD, Death Before Dishonor. I bought the album in '93 when it came out on Brainstorm, Sodom in America, and it was brilliant. I mean, Brother to the Saboteur, Kiss of Chaos, the title track. I'm a fan of rap as well. And who does not remember the to me, from my perspective, kind of what started the marriage between rap and rock, of course, was Run DMC and Aerosmith with Walk This Way. Such a great song. Now, in the Christian realm, and you know, I'm a fan of PID and SFC and a lot of these guys. But I don't know if you guys remember Tourniquet with PID doing Spineless in 1991. It was a single song off of Psychosurgery, a brilliant album, but there was a team up of Tourniquet with PID. Absolutely brilliant song. But Todd, your album is the very first one that I remember, which was heavy music all the way through, coupled with rap. And I give you props and kudos for that. I love the album. It's a great album. Friends, you need to check it out. 1993, Sodom in America. But Todd, 20 some odd years, I hadn't heard of you after that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like 20 some odd years later. And then we get to 2016 with Offensive Truth, and that was released in 2 volumes. And I think in 2019 it's put together on one through Rocks Records. Why was there a 20 some odd year gap in between releases, Todd?
Well, I tell you what,
May I ask that?
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. It's, here's, you know, hindsight, you see things a lot better. I'll just say that I think the devil won in a battle against me to stop me and slow me down. God handed me everything I wanted, just gave it to me. And I chose to be disobedient. I backslid, started getting back into right around the same time my album came out. I started partying, hanging out with the wrong crowd again. I backslid into my wife, who, praise God, I'm still married to. 28 years later, we're still married. But she definitely was not a Christian. A girl from the streets, you know. And I ended up getting married. And it was really the wrong time for me. As far as my career is concerned, it was the wrong time to get married. But, you know, I had enough God in me at still remaining in me. It was like, well, now you're married now, dude. Like, you know, I got to get a job and I got to provide for family. And, you know, 3 months after being married, she was pregnant, you know, and it's like, now I got to take care of the kid. And I hadn't established a career yet. My album had the same year that my album dropped was the same year I got married and the same year I got involved in this relationship. And then just trying to put together a band that would work and trying to do shows, it just started being hard. It was easier to rap because I could just take my tracks to go rap somewhere. But now it's like, I got to get a band. And not only do I have to have a band, I got to get a band that can play my stuff, because not everybody could play it. And like, I'm finding with some of these musicians, it's like, dude, nobody could play my stuff. And I'm picky, you know, it's like, no, you're not playing that right. I don't want to go up and play and have XL and DVD sound like a cover band trying to play XL and DVD, you know? And so we played off and on. I mean, even in 1995, I changed members. You guys all know Ron Keel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Ron Keel's guitar player, Ryan J, he joined the band. He was in the band for a year, 1995 to 96. We had some shows then, you know, played like with LA Guns and different places. But it just from that point on, it could never take off. And there's in my own personal life, a lot of vacillation. I'm on with God, I'm off with God. I'm on with God. Never losing my faith in God, but just sometimes I was walking it, sometimes I wasn't.
So, Todd, you know, a couple points, if I may. Number one, buddy, I mean, you're here and we're talking to you, and I want to get into some other things from your albums and some quotes from you. What I'm so happy to say, buddy, is, and you know this, I mean, the devil didn't win, buddy, because you're here and you've released other stuff for the Lord, and you're kicking. I'm not going to say what Jamie said earlier, but you're kicking some tush for the Lord, you know. And
I didn't say it, Oz did.
That's right. Yeah.
Hold on. Hey guys, sorry, I'm gonna hijack this for a minute. This is my grandson.
Oh,
Hey.
hi.
This
What's your
is my-
grandson's name, Jamie?
This is Madison.
Hey, Madison, how are you,
Hi,
buddy?
Madison.
Too hard. Anyway, we're watching him. He's part of our date. The short thing is, though, I need to bounce because
Okay.
it's time to go. So,
All right.
guys, hey Todd, man, I love hearing your story, man. I really do, and stuff. It's good to see and you saying on with God, off with God. I can relate to that at times. There's been periods in my life the same way, and I appreciate you being open about that, man. But God, you know, a friend of mine wrote a song, and I really believe, man, for all of us in this room, you can't shake Jesus. That's all
No.
there is to it. So,
Yeah.
and on that, guys, I got to bounce. So, thanks for letting me be a part.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks,
And
Jamie.
I'm gonna have to watch
Bye.
this here. I'm gonna watch this when it's released, so I can hear what Todd had to say after I left. Like,
We'll let
man,
you,
get that fool out of here.
yeah,
So,
we'll let you know, buddy.
All right,
All
see you
right,
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, partner. So Todd, you know, the neat thing, and we've, like Jamie's saying, we've all been there, and your honesty, of course, is refreshing, and it's always great. You know, I mean, well, the devil didn't win. You know, we've all had battles.
You know, it's a battle. He won some battles. I mean, he did. He clearly did. Like some things weren't supposed to happen if I had just been walking, staying steadfast. You know, obedience is its own reward, and so is disobedience. You know, sometimes by default. You know, you do something wrong by default, and God still loves you. God still takes you in, but sometimes you got to pay for some things you did. You know, you know. I look at POD and man, one of my favorite bands. I love POD, and it's like, well, I mean, that was most definitely their success. I was supposed to have that. I mean, if you do what God says, you know, Psalms 1, you know, the man who delights himself in the Lord, you know, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. He will be like a tree planted by the rivers. You know, whatsoever he does will prosper, right? But so you can reverse any you can put any verse in reverse, right?
Right.
Not a man is not blessed who does not walk in the counsel of God. Everything he does is going to mess up. It's going to fail. It's not going to prosper. He's not going to be like a tree planted by the water. He's going to be a tree that's drying up with the roots pulled up, you know? So kind of that kind of thing where if you choose to not follow God, it's not that he's not with you. It's just your own actions determine where you're going to go. And so that's been something I actually just in my own dealing with my own inner man and my own person that I've had to come to grips with. You know, sometimes you have to forgive yourself of things that, you know, it's like you can look back and say, well, if I would have followed this path just by default, something would have, you know, wouldn't have been here. If I work out every day, pretty soon I'm going to have muscles, you know. If I eat Twinkies every day and don't work out, well, I'm going to get a belly and I'm not going to have any biceps. So, you know, just that kind of a situation where I look back and forgive myself for some things so I can continue on with a healthy inner man. And so, you know, that stuff started to happen, which is why I kind of got back into doing music again late. And Offensive Truth 1 and 2 is basically what a lot of those songs would have been released right after Sodom in America. Most of those songs were already done back in 1993, 94 for my sophomore effort that just no one ever heard. So,
well, so we have the, you know, Offensive Truth, and then in you know, with all of your releases, you know, you have a who's who, you know, Jim Chaffin from The Crucified, Jimmy P. Brown from Deliverance, Oz Fox, of course, from Stryper, Rex Carroll, the list goes on, and it's quite impressive, your friends you have on there. The beginning of Closure in 2020, you know, boasts the same who's who of musicians on there, your friends. Love The End Justifies the Means. What a great single, what a great song. And then we have Vacillate. And Todd, I want to talk about too, 1993 Sodom in America, a great album, but it was a lot of rap, you know, with the heavy music. You also have quite the voice, and that starts showing up on your latter releases, such as the beginning of Closure. You have an excellent singing voice. Friends, you need to check out that album, and you need to check out Excel's Innovation and with the Dynamics of Relation. That's the name of the album. And Todd, one thing I'd like to say about the dynamics of relation. You had a lot to say about that because you were speaking really frankly from your heart and about your relationship with Cheryl, and you laid it all on the line. And I just want to say, Todd, your honesty, it's refreshing to a Christian such as me, because see, I'm a struggling Christian. And what I mean by that is it's not about my faith, but like Paul said, you know, we can relate. That which I don't want to do, I wind up doing, and that which I do want to do, I don't do. And how miserable am I? You know, but see, your message in dynamics of relation, it's so honest, and it lets me know, hey, my brother such as Todd, who loves the Lord, or Dale, who loves the Lord, we all struggle. If you don't mind, Todd, would you just explain to our viewers who'll be watching this kind of what the core elements of the dynamics of relation is about? Because you had a lot to say about it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you know, I backslid into my wife. You know, before I met my wife, I had written songs I wrote future songs to my wife, which is like track number 2, The One to Look For, and Be New Girl, were songs I was writing about, like, I don't know, it's like I had this, I don't know if I say it, I don't know if it's a godly or like a godly thing, attraction to troubled girls, like, and it's like I wanted them to get Jesus, you know. And so those 2 songs were songs I wrote prior to my relationship, and then you know, I fell in love with my wife, and she fell in love with me, or I was good enough for her to want to stay with. But she's straight from the streets, you know. Her dad was a heroin addict, mom was meth addict, you know. Just everything that you don't want to have happen to you in your childhood as a young girl is my wife. And then that continued on into teenage years and bad boyfriends and almost being killed by boyfriends, and, you know, the whole 9 yards. And so when I met my wife, I had ran the streets, but I didn't go through the half the stuff that she went through. And so it was like, okay, well, here's a troubled woman, you know, here's your Mary Magdalene, here's your Gomer for Hosea, you know, are you Christian enough? Is this really what you want? You know? And so then after being married to my wife for just a year, it's like, I'm like, what did I do? What am I doing? And it's like, I got this love for this woman, and also the frustration of, dang, she needs a lot of help. You know, I had already been raised, you know, I'd already been a Christian. I'm backslidden from 3, you know, I just put out Sodom America with everything I talked about in there. That was for real for me. And it's like, well, how the heck did I get to where I'm at now? And so most, you know, just some of those songs I wrote, you know, 10 Years With You, I wrote after being with her for 10 years. And like, man, the stuff I went through, is like, this marriage sucks. Damn, I love you, girl. I love you, my darling. I love you. You know, it's like, I can't help it. Everything, you know, in that song, every single verse is about what I can't stand about the marriage. And then the hook is my darling, you know, like, you know, like, and then Some Things You Never Know. It's like, that song is about me trying to dig into like her boyfriends and who you've been with, what have you done, and this and that. And it's like, you know, and then at that point, God revealed to me, like, some of these things you're not supposed to, some of these things you don't need to know this stuff. This is none of your business. You know, you move from here on. And it was a song for me telling myself, you know what, you know, I want to look in your eyes. I want to know everything about you, but that's not going to happen. And I say, you know, there's still some things I'm not showing you. And there's some things as a man, I'm not revealing every single thing to you about me. You know, I mean, that, you know, perfect marriage is, what is that in our society with us being sinners and imperfect people? Of course, if there was a perfect marriage, yeah, you would know everything about me and I would know everything about you and we would be one. But, you know, everyday Christians are still struggling to get this thing going on, you know? And so that's what that song was about. Then, of course, Anger at You is just be talking about, man, the time, like, geez, you know, I don't want you to be around. I don't want to punch you. I don't want to talk to you either. I don't, you know, you know, I'm just so dang pissed off at you right now. And so I just wrote a song about, this is about my marriage. And I know that I'm not the only one who feels this way, but I think a lot of Christians aren't going to come up and try and say that, or they're going to try and make themselves look like, oh, you need to be like how here's what we do. Like, yeah. And tell them about what you do when no one's looking and what you just said, so.
The honesty was very refreshing, Todd. And we all have different struggles in different areas. One of mine, I'll be honest, full confession, it's my tongue. Sometimes it's hard for me to get a handle on my tongue when I get frustrated and stuff. And, that's something I've always struggled with and I continue to, but in a different way, Todd, the message that you are relaying through the whole of your album, The Dynamics of Relation, it's letting me know, hey, I'm not the Lone Ranger. I have other brothers and sisters out there who love the Lord, but we're all in a daily struggle. And I appreciate, like Jamie was saying earlier, he said something about the refreshing honesty and what he was trying to do. And Todd, you are very much doing that through The Dynamics of Relation. And so I just want to say thank you for your honesty.
Like that in the distance, it just won't never go away. And I'll never tell you, it wouldn't help us anyway. I choose to love you, and with God's help I know we'll stay. Time keeps changing, rearrange, and I want to stay with you. I can't believe it, but it's true.
Your latest release, it's just dropped, Skin and Bones. It's as the Reconciled, which is you teamed up with Dale Thompson. Todd, how did that team up as the Reconciled come about with Dale?
I don't know why I picked Dale with all the choices and I'm gonna talk to Jamie next.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know. It happened about 2 years back, because when I first started trying to approach Dale to do a record, and he was willing to do it right away. Like, he's like, well, what do you got? And I sent him a rinky-dink track of something I recorded years ago on the 4-track. I was like, hey, this sounds horrible, but if you can see through the quality. And he sends it back and is like, I've already started writing lyrics to it. When do you want to start? I'm like, oh, I didn't want to. 2020 was a rough year for me. Me and my wife were split up in 2020. It was probably my roughest year to date in life, 2020. And so I wasn't in a position to record. I didn't have the right equipment. And so I finally had to bow and say, hey man, I'm not ready to do this. And it was September 21 where I was able to get some recording equipment, and it looked like I was going to be able to be doing a lot of music. And so I contacted Dale again. I was like, hey, I know it's been over a year since I asked you, do you still want to do something? He's like, you got some songs? He's like, it's going to have to be good quality. He starts laying down all these, it's got this and that. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm not down for it sounding horrible neither, And he's like, well, what do you got? I said, give me a week. I'll get you 3 songs in a week. I tell you what, within 24 hours, he had them all back to me, tracked, like with 6 to 11 vocals on each song, like just layering himself big time. And I'm like, okay, dang, I got to move pretty fast. I was like, all right, well, I'll get you 3 more I'll get you 3, give me 3 days. I'll get you 3 more, and so we had the album, it was tracked and done by the end of November. But I was a novice with my DAW system, my software. And so I was going to use the guy that I've used for the past 4 albums, Matt McEwen, who's in Daytona Beach, Florida. He owns Sound Mind Studios, and he's a pastor down there. Also, he's an excellent artist. He doesn't get the props you know, but he's the one that he engineered and mastered Offensive Truth, and he did Excel's Innovation, he did Beginning of Closure. So this time I record stuff at my house, and I'm sending it off to him to get it done. And he was super busy. He's doing it out of the goodness of his heart, you know, and so it was taking a little longer than I was, you know, hoping it would take. But anyway, you know, when it's said and done, you know, I cranked out 12 rockin' tunes, and in my personal opinion, this is just my personal opinion, and I am biased, some of the best work that Dale has done on a side project in a long time. And I think he would maybe not disagree with that. And so some of the songs I've played for people, because there's only one single out right now. The album actually drops April 15th, the whole thing. CDs will be out, and it'll be out on your streaming mediums on April 15th. But the single Skin and Bones is out right now, and people, it's a huge buzz about it being created about it. And
so friends, Rocks Records is rocksrecords.com is the one who's putting that out. They've also put out over the past few years Todd's material, Offensive Truth 1 and 2, and Dynamics of Relation. Remember, it's XL and DVD. And so go to rocksrecords.com, and that's where you can find that. And I want to stress again, friends, if all you're familiar with, like me, being old school from the 90s, is the rap side of Todd, who hits it hard, and man, there's some thrashing music on Sodom in America. But Todd also has a wonderful voice and a great sense of melody, and that's actually come through on his latter releases. You know, The End Justifies the Means. Check out that lyric video that's from Rocks Productions. You know, his latest release, Dynamics of Relation, just a great sense of melody. And so Todd, my hat's off to you, because man, you have it all, buddy. You're kind of the total package with all of the instruments you play and your vocals. So I want to ask you, Todd, your online presence. I am showing your Facebook address. Is there any other online presence where people can connect with you if they wish to?
You know, I have a page for XL's Innovation, and I have a page for XL and DVD. I got a couple of Reverb Nation pages.
Okay.
Some older music. I got Bandcamp site that has the majority of my music, and some older stuff that stuff that was before Sodom in America that people can hear from there. I don't know. I really lack in the social media. I mean, besides I'm active on Facebook, like my own page, but everything else, like I don't have a website. I do have one. There's one, XL's Innovation herenow.com, xlsinnovation.herenow.com. And that kind of points you in the direction of a lot of the music that I've done. Like, you can access all my pages from that website.
In closing, Todd, I just want to say we might have another song title. I wrote this down. You said it. Verse in Reverse.
Verse in reverse.
You were talking about how you can do a verse in reverse and saying, if we don't do it God's way, here's the way it pans out. And I'm like, man, that would make a cool album title. So, Dale, buddy, we were supposed to have Michael Feighan on, and we had a whole big story about that, you know, but maybe next time. But Dale, I didn't mean to. We had some stuff planned, and it didn't quite pan out. But how you been, buddy? What you doing?
Can I say a few things before we go?
Dale starts talking, did you guys know Dale did a few shows with me?
I did know that. Dale would send me clips of him like practicing with you. He'd be with you, and he'd be doing the drums, and I'm like, really, Dale? You know, so yeah. So let's talk about doing some shows with him.
Well, you know what? Was it last year or the year before? Well, it's 2020. We had a gig as XL in Indiana, I think it was, and we had it set up to where Rex Carroll and Jimmy from Deliverance, maybe in Jim Chaffin, we're gonna play.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
From the Crucified.
Yeah, but we're gonna call it like the All-Star or something. Yeah,
and they all agreed to it, but we couldn't. Their schedules were all jacked up.
COVID hit.
That would be cool. Yeah, Rex was down to play.
They
Jim
canceled it.
Jimmy.
Yeah, they canceled the fest.
Oh, they did. I didn't know that. I just knew that once I knew they couldn't fly, they couldn't all be in there at the right time. Then it's like, oh well.
So Dale,
That would have
you
been
get to
great.
play drums with Todd, right? When he practices, don't you get on the drums?
Well, it's funny. It's because back in '93, yeah, I wanted to be a drummer, so I bought a drum set, and then I started taking lessons from By Martini, who was the drummer for Philadelphia, and I bought that record, and I thought, man, I could play in that band, or I would love to play in that type of band, and I love the veracity, it was raw, there was no tricks except for the Casio on Kiss of Chaos. Todd can tell you about that one.
Nobody knows that, man.
But there were no tricks. It was raw. It was in your face lyrics. Cold. Got caught, cold busted in a corner, giving Lisa a kiss. It was like, oh, I would love to play in a band like that. I'm trying to put together kind of like the band's name is Remnant, so we're like remnants of the old days, I guess you could say, and playing Christian metal, Christian rock, and then some secular rock too at the same time. Go out and play, just like kind of like Jamie said, not for church, just to go out into the world and play. That's what I love about Todd, is that he has a lot of courage.
Mike, if you would go ahead and take us home with some scripture closeout, and then Todd and Dale, before y'all X out of here, stick around for 1 minute after scripture closeout, okay? Take us home, Michael.
Yeah, sure. And so Jamie, when you watch this after the fact, you actually inspired the direction I went with this today, because I'd been listening to the Almost Home album, and like the other guys said, when they were listening to it, they were struck by the realness of it, the genuine nature of it, and I was as well. In fact, I forget which song it is right now, but there's a song where you even basically say, sorry about the language, but I need to be real right now, but anyway, the album came across to me that way. And I think that's very, after having done this interview today, that seems to be very much where you're at. And I think that's why it was important that we leave your little story in there about Tony, or about Oz Fox, sorry. But that being said, this is what inspired my scripture for the day. But as we've done this interview, I noticed that it's kind of become a theme for the whole thing.
Yes.
As we were talking to Todd too. I mean, just so much being real and genuine about the struggles that we Christians can go through. And so I think this is a God thing, and I got led to the right verse here. Romans 12:9 says, "Let love be genuine. Abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good." So I think that worked out pretty well.
Friends, when you're watching this, we've had some technical difficulties with connectivity today, and it's kind of a common problem. So Todd and Dale, thank you, brothers. It's been our privilege to have you.
And I'd like to just give a quick shout out, Ken, if I could, to two of our brothers, Joel at Imaginary Music Podcast and Jeremy at Torrential Riff. Those guys do a good job, and I recommend our viewers check their videos out too. They have some really good, interesting things that they cover and reviews.
Most definitely. We're all in this together. Y'all are all one body in many parts, like the Bible says. And so we're all playing a respective role. So Todd, Dale, thank you, brothers. Thank you for the fellowship.
Yes, good to be here.
And everybody gets summer rain. There's sometimes more than their share of pain. And sometimes life can't be explained. And so we pray to be better off than yesterday.
in the soul of everyone.
Hey, Mike made it. All right. Hey, Mike.
And my
So-
connection is, I've been having a terrible time with this connection. Our internet's down. I'm trying this hotspot. It's not working.
You know, Michael,
That's all
first
right.
of all, oh,
We lost him.
Uh-oh.